Hey Kings, what's poppin'? It's me, Cheems of Regret, and today I want to talk about the Halo Infinite, how it played so far, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that sort of deal. To ensure absolutely nobody is confused, I am playing on a PC with mouse and keyboard. These are my specs, feel free to pause and check it if you care. Additionally, I'd like to also say that I'm relatively new to Halo. I didn't grow up with Halo, I didn't experience the rise and fall of Halo, as the internet people like to call it. First time I ever touched a Halo game was in December 2019, when Halo Reach came to PC as the first in a wave of MCC ports. As such, my comments on weapon balancing and other such features may differ from people who have been playing Halo since CE came out in 2001. With that out of the way, let's start with the good. The gameplay overall is slick and smooth. It just works. The movement balances itself rather well between speedy and tactical pace. Positioning and map knowledge will be the great equalizer here as opposed to sheer reflex. The player that knows how to use and abuse the map environment will be able to edge out against even some of the toughest situations. I unfortunately don't have it clipped, but I managed to take out 2 enemies in a 3v1 by repeatedly hopping off and clambering up ledge. The fight went kind of like this clip from Shyway, currently on screen, but with a lot more grenades and a lot more gunfire. Speaking of cover and clamber, the map design is pretty good so far as we can see. A lot of care and thought was given to the placement of cover, ledges, and platforms. It's also impressive how they managed to make the maps feel individually unique between them, not just in regards to visual identity, but also how matches are played in it. Bazaar is very different from Live Fire, which is very different from Recharge, which again is very different from Behemoth. The maps have a really good flow to it, and again, it just works. You know something else that I think just works? Weapon balancing. It's really cool to me how 343 managed to balance the guns in a way where each gun feels unique and doesn't exactly overlap with each other. Sure, there are still different weapon classes like precision weapons, auto guns, etc., which in theory serve similar purposes. Despite this, each gun performs different enough from each other and manages to retain a unique identity. For example, the Commando and the BR are both precision weapons meant for longer range engagements. But the inferior zoom on the Commando means that the BR will have that extra bit of range compared to the Commando. Meanwhile, the Commando can fire in full auto, which makes it better in CQC situations than the BR. Another example is the niche the Skewer takes as a power weapon. Its precision and superior zoom means that you can hit targets at extreme distances like the sniper, but the lack of splash damage and only having one in the mag means that the rocket launcher is preferable in CQC. This sort of care is placed on all of the weapons available in-game. Now, let's move on to things that I'm not too hot on but doesn't bother me that much. I am of course talking about the Battle Pass, or more specifically, how the Battle Pass itself works. Now personally, I think that a battle system being in place is pretty good, because it means we won't have to deal with paid map packs or loot boxes. It's also great that the Battle Pass won't expire like literally every other Battle Pass system in existence. So that's really cool. What I'm not too hot on is how you grind for the Battle Pass, that being the challenges. The issue with the challenges as we've seen them so far is that the challenges are as boring and inane as play X amount of matches or get X amount of kills on one end of the spectrum, or get specific on the other end with complete X amount of matches in Y game mode or do this specific task X amount of times in Y amount game modes. It also doesn't help that if you get a challenge you don't like, you have to buy challenge swap tickets or whatever the fuck they're called. I really don't like the way it works. I think I'd rather have a simpler Battle Pass progression system based on in-match performance. With the more points you achieve, the more XP you gain. Challenges should be optional, not the primary method. Splitgate did this the best, I think. In that game, you get XP for performing well in matches, and you get bonus XP from challenges. Now, while I kind of don't mind the current Battle Pass system when looking at the big picture, I also wouldn't mind if it got replaced with a better system. Finally, let's talk about the stuff that actually took away from my experience and made it worser off than it should be. This game has some serious teething issues, and by serious, I mean serious. Starting off with the worst of the bunch, I have a fucking connection problem. No, I'm not talking about my connection being bad due to server issues or whatever. I'm talking about no connections. At all. For some ungodly reason, my regular internet won't work. I get this infernal no ping to our data centers detected warning whenever I try to start matchmaking. This issue is persistent since the first preview, and it's honestly just stupid. I have to do this retarded workaround by playing it with my phone's internet. Now, I've only ever experienced this issue on this game, and this game alone. I don't get this issue with Cold War, I don't get this issue with MCC, and I don't get this issue with CSGO. I've posted on the Halo Waypoint forums, and more than a few people have the same issue. This is from a flight of a few thousand. Imagine when the game launches and we have millions of players trying to get into a match. We don't know how widespread this issue really is, and it might affect hundreds, if not thousands of people out there. Another serious issue this game has is its optimization, especially on PC. My specs are well above minimum, though my GPU is admittedly far from recommended. Despite this, I regularly get frame stutters or dips when playing on bigger maps. Bazaar and Recharge, these maps are fine, but Behemoth, Live Fire, and Big Team Battle, my frame rate takes dips more than I would like. I tried lowering the graphics settings, but that only gave me marginal improvements. In something like Live Fire and Behemoth, this is annoying, but not detrimental. A dip of 60 to 50 or 45 isn't going to break my vibe, but in Big Team Battle, this is an issue. My frames can dip from 55 steady to 30 or even 12 for a few seconds. It's not only annoying, but it's also actively ruining my experience. I unfortunately don't have it clipped, but I distinctly remember two separate occasions where frame dips directly caused me to die. One was when my frames dipped and I was unable to avoid a skewer shot. The other was when my frames dipped, which caused me to get run over by a teammate. This was frustrating not because I died specifically, but because I had zero control over it. If this is how the game will perform in big team battles, I dread to think how it's going to perform in campaign, which is supposed to be open world and even bigger than big team battle. This is such a shame too, since big team battle is by far my favorite experience out of the preview. This is a serious issue and they need to address this as soon as possible. Now, on a serious level, this next issue is somewhere in the middle. It's not exactly very bad, but it's kind of pretty bad. There's this exploit of sorts in the game where you can cancel reloads with melee attacks. However, this is spammable, so you can hit melee, immediately hit reload, which resets the melee cooldown, then hit melee again. This is busted beyond belief and lets you melee up to 3 times in a second. For context, you only need to land 2 melee hits to kill someone. As much as I like messing around with this, I'd rather have 343 patch it out entirely. Now, the last issue I have could be a total non-issue by the time of launch, but the lack of Southeast Asian servers adversely affected my experience in the test. Now, I perfectly understand that funneling as many players into the same play space is a necessity given the limited amounts of people playing, but it does get tiring having myself get ping-pong between East Asian and US West servers, where I average 100 to 200 ping respectively. They're probably going to have SEA servers by launch, but on the off chance that they don't, well, that's gonna suck balls. Anyways, that about wraps up my thoughts on Halo Infinite so far. If they manage to fix the issues I mentioned, the game is very easily Game of the Year. Or at least the multiplayer side of it. We hardly know jack and shit about campaign yet. Hopefully 343 actually decides to tell us something about it very soon. As always, thank you to the wonderful kings who watched until the end of the video. Your support is greatly appreciated. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, and maybe also join my new Discord server if you feel like it. This is Cheems of Regret, wishing good luck and Godspeed to all of you. Signing out.